right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Block Sauce, your weekly web show that serves up the juiciest discussions in the world of gaming and Web3 culture. I'm your host and ReNFT ambassador, Jin Kieran, and today we've got a new panel lined up for you. Well, somewhat new. So grab your controllers, crack open a Red Bull, and prepare to get your game on. Hey there, sauce enthusiasts. It's time to bring the heat with another electrifying episode of the Block Sauce. I'm thrilled to introduce our panel. We got Jorge and Graslow today. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
I had to hide Graslow real quick. You were peeking through the intro there for a second. Oh, man. So what are you guys up to?
What's up? I'm excited for today's topics. I'm excited to bring Graslow on, a game developer who's been building a fucking pretty kick-ass game and has had like a lot of experience in the space. So like what he brings to the table today, I mean, I'm excited to listen to him about, you know, kind of the topics and how what he thinks of the current market as well, of like everything that's happening in game development.
I'm honored to be here. Long-time viewer, first-time visitor, but yeah, glad to be here, share the conversation. Always watching you guys talk about the latest of what's going on in Web3 gaming. So yeah, excited to give my take.
Well, I mean, obviously there's been some hot topics on the timeline lately. So, you know, I'd like to hear your opinion, Graslow. Gameplay versus economy. What do you think is important, or is one more important than the other?
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting when you think about it. You know, like I come from the perspective of like the MMORPG genre. I think it really, when you talk about gameplay versus economy, it really depends on the genre, the type of gameplay you're talking about, the type of market you're going for. You know, we're in this kind of niche space today where a lot of games and a lot of activity is really focused towards like the degens and the, you know, the gambling, the speculation, and that's a whole different kind of market than traditional gaming. You know, there's some of that in gaming. You know, of course we have esports, we've got competitive, we've got, you know, the more speculative side of gaming there. But I think that Web3 is like, we've barely just scratched the surface. It's going to get a lot more interesting from here on out as we get, you know, better games, more genres, and just higher quality. And so I think we have to focus on the gameplay. But I do think that economy is going to be a big part of that. I mean, obviously you're bringing in financialization of game assets, whether that's your intention or not. When you give players this like extra ownership and they can take these and do things with them. I mean, whether it's, you know, lending or whether it's, you know, trading and then leveraging and things like that, you're really enabling this whole player economy. So it's something to really think about. It puts added pressure on developers. We've got to think more about, you know, like how our sinks and faucets work with a not closed economy, but one that now has these open, you know, portals to the real world and real money. So it adds a lot of complexity there. But I think, you know, we really have to focus on gameplay. That's something that's been underserved in the space so far.
What are your thoughts, Jorge? I want to get your guys' thoughts before I chime in.
I always said, look, I think you've heard me say this a million times, and I'll say it again, is there's a reason the casinos do really, really well. It's because there's a gambling aspect of it, and it's fun. And you're playing games. At the casinos, you are literally playing games, right? You're putting in money and gambling and hoping that you're going to win something in return, and most of the time you won't. GameFi, the early stages of GameFi and gaming, that's what it is. It has, sure, maybe a game loop that you're playing in, but at the end of the day, it's still very, very much similar, right? The differences are not much there than what it is to that audience, right? And so, like, do I think GameFi has a market? Of course, it's just not gamers. Traditional gamers don't like that because this is a whole different aspect. Maybe some ways to trickle it, I don't know. That's a whole different world. We haven't seen it yet. Look, we haven't seen a successful gaming economy yet. Again, we don't have the users for it. I don't know if they're going after the wrong users as well. That goes back to the audience. So, to me, it, I think it has to be coming down to the game needs to be able to be marketed right to gamers so that gamers could understand it and play it and jump into gaming, right? But also jump into the game. It's because I've seen this recently this past week. It's like, I think it was Kagi or somebody else who's jumped into a game without knowing the instructions or even reading the tutorials, right? I think Coop as well. And so like, that's the kind of gaming you want, like also as well. Like you want people to just jump in and be like, okay, let me discover it on my own, right? Like let me have fun doing it and like let me figure it out. So yeah, I think there's just we could go on and on about this conversation, but I'll keep it like right there. I would say.
So I'm with you. I agree that casinos make a lot of money, but when you think about when we're talking the overall audience, we're talking gaming, right? So most of these projects, I would imagine, want to target gamers. What you're talking about is targeting the degens and gamblers. So yes, there will 100% be an audience for GameFi. I don't deny that whatsoever. That's why these coin flip and casino knockoffs in Web3 do so well. But if you're making a legitimate game, like let's talk like Superior, for example, or Big Time, or any of these other games that are developing like full on systems with quests, progression, ranked modes, Parallels is another good example. These aren't going to do well if all you focus on is the economy. And the reason I say that is look at a game like CSGO. If the skins, or even Fortnite, if those skins are not tradable, they have no value. As long as the gameplay is good, they're still bringing in money through battle passes, merchandise, all these other monetization methods. In Web3, we can still leverage those monetization methods while allowing the economy to supplement these systems. In my personal opinion as a gamer, not, I do have a gambling problem, but I that's behind me. Those days, I don't touch it anymore unless it's a mint. I love mints. I hate that I'm addicted to them, but it's like the loot boxes, right? Anybody that's seen my streams recently, I do pack opening streams, love them. But when it comes to the actual speculation and gambling side, I don't touch it. I want to play the games, and all the stuff that I get from my loot boxes and mints, I don't even flip them. I'm sitting here using them in the games. I want to show, hey, look, I support this game. I financially believe that this game is going to make it, and I want to show that. But the gameplay has to be there. And the reason I say that is if you don't have a game that people enjoy and want to play, and this even applies to GameFi, if all you have is a little degen, like you click on a coin and it flips and you lose or gain money based on heads or tails, eventually that's going to taper off. People are going to lose interest, and then your economy doesn't even matter because nobody's playing the game to support the economy. So I think that there kind of is a hand-in-hand situation in here where you do need to focus on gameplay, but you also need to make sure that you're worried about how your economy can play out, because if your economy ruins the gameplay, then you see what I'm saying? It is definitely, in my opinion, a hand-in-hand scenario. So you can't really ignore one or the other. That's how I look at it.
One thing I'll just say, like being able to flex like a rare item or skin or whatever, like that's super important to people that are like DJs. Like, I mean, it's great to, have something that is like super valuable. It's also great for like, just anyone who is a gamer or a collector. But I'll say you need that audience to be there. Like we saw this in the NFT space where we had these mints and you get some super rare, rare trait NFT, and that kind of gave you the same feeling that you get from the game, right? But then we saw what happens when the NFTs kind of keep coming out and these collections keep growing, and there's no loop that keeps people in this one community like a game does with a captive audience. All of a sudden that super valuable, super rare thing doesn't really mean anything anymore. Like, yeah, I have the most rare item of this collection that nobody cares about anymore. So if it's a game that's actually fun and bringing on new users, and you have this super rare skin, like it's going to maintain value, not only like monetary value, but also like collector value.
And it depends on the game too, because the example that I give, because I'm usually gameplay first, forget the economy, I don't care about the economy, but that's not always applicable. It really depends on the game. And the prime example to support the economy argument that I would like to use is EVE Online. EVE Online has made multiple changes throughout the course of its life that actually ruins the player economy. And because they destroy the in-game player economy, it destroys the gameplay because people lose access to resources they previously had, ships they could previously build. So your economy can be just as critical depending on how you set it up as the core gameplay itself. So again, that's why I'm of the belief they go hand in hand, but I personally am still always going to be a gameplay first type of person. But I can't ignore that we're in Web3. The economy systems, unfortunately, are kind of what we're adding to the formula, and they do have a bit of a tie-in. If we ignore them completely, why be in Web3? No. I expected Jorge. Yeah, I was about to say, come on, Jorge.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are things in Web3 that are fun, right? Like, let's backtrack here. Like, what's being built with Web3, NFTs, tokens, and all that stuff? It's great, right? Like, cool stuff is really done. The issue is, and will always be, same thing that has happened with Bitcoin and crypto, is the language, right? The language has always been the issue. And so you look at the way crypto's now crossing the mass adoption line where people are understanding. It's because people are finally like explaining to people like what crypto is and how it works and what's and whatnot, because now the language is getting easier to understand. Same thing in gaming, right? Like we're finally understanding, oh, gameplay. Yeah, of course, gameplay. But what's built or what's been built might actually work if you used like normal words that gamers would understand, right? Like,
Skin,
like
or player or character rather than NFT or asset.
Again, it's an issue, right? So like, do I think that it has to be gameplay? Right now, it has to be gameplay because of the issue that we've created of the language. Mm-hmm. But if we didn't have a language, maybe we didn't even have to do this whole issue with gameplay. So, yeah, man, I think it's like a chicken and the egg thing situation, right? So I think as mass adoption comes for us, as bigger games build, people will understand it, and eventually maybe we go back to the words NFTs, we go back to the words blockchain and crypto and all this stuff. Like maybe people will understand it easier. Who knows? We're early.
Yeah, I think decentralization is an example of that. It's something that, like it's in the roots of like crypto and Bitcoin. Like we talk about decentralization, but you talk to like mainstream people and they just don't care. That means nothing to them. But that's something that's kind of in the roots of Web3. And I do think like Jorge, like you're saying, I think that may be important down the road, but trying to sell people on decentralization today is just like a fool's errand.
I agree. It's like I tell people, I use the email example. Most people don't know if they're using SMTP, IMAP, POP3. They don't care about transport protocols or databases. They just want email to work. And that's what we need to work. We need games to work. And the technology and stuff just needs to supplement that in a way that it's seamless. Users can just use it. And I don't know if you guys have checked out STG Football. I know I've been posting all over the timeline. I'm not paid by them by any means, so I'm not a paid shill. They did it right, in my opinion. You can buy the characters in the packs directly using fiat, or you can choose to use crypto. It's entirely like their entire marketplace. I can even buy off of other players using fiat currencies. I do not have to get involved with the Web3 side whatsoever, even though I'm buying and selling and trading NFTs. And it's all done in a format that players are already familiar with. That's the kind of systems that we need to see more of. That seamless transition where players don't even know that they're using Web3 or that they're touching NFTs.
Agreed. No, I mean, again, this is all a trial and error situation, right? And unfortunately, I think one other thing to really speak on, it's funny because I'm just coming off of a talk show before this that we were speaking about marketing, and I was actually with Rod, and we were speaking about this. The issue, again, a lot of the issues here is because we've hired or we've worked with inexperienced people, right? And specifically in marketing, I always see like some of the earlier projects, some of the people, the executive teams, right? Like you look at it and you look at their experience, and like there's a CMO that's never had marketing experience, but was a great community member. Cool, that's great. No shy to it. Like I understand it. Like it's cool, but if you're going to be in that role, then you need to be able to use to your fingertips of like all the things that we have, like YouTube, podcasts, books, read how to excel in that, how to learn where your audience is. And because of all that, like we've had all these inexperienced people, I think is a lot of the issues again in this space, right? Like I was just up with Rod. Rod's got 16 years of working with games, right? 20 something years in marketing. And it's like, okay, like when him and I were talking, we were like quickly able to have like a conversation about marketing and make it understand that we're like, it's all about knowing your audience, the faces of marketing, because people just think it's marketing and people think it's on Twitter or X. Like that's it. Like that's where they live. Like no one lives on Twitter for fucking games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like there's and people think like just because you have 20,000 followers, like, oh yeah, that's who we got to use. Like, especially in a world where like scams are like huge in this space, I'm still surprised that like that trick works, right? Like, you know how easy it is to buy like 10,000 bots, like 10,000 followers, and it's like inexpensive, and they can like all your posts too, so like the engagement's there. But like again, it's inexperience, and I think that's the inexperience that has led us a lot of down this road. And it's good to see like it's great to hear like when Web2 developers are coming into the space. It's great to see like Grasslow, right? Like things that like have had previous experience and understand it, run businesses. You know, I say this all the time. Last thing here is that, you know, one of the things when people want to work with me, the first question I always have on my questionnaire to work with me is, hey, how many users do you need to break even? And I can't tell you how many times they look at me and they're like, what? Like how many users I need to break even? They're like, yeah, how much money do we need to make in year one to cover runway and all this stuff? And they're like, yeah, well, we really haven't thought about that. Or we don't really know how many users are. And I'm like, what, like, do you think this is a charity organization? Like, just because we raised 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, whatever it is, that's not gonna like, that's gonna create the project. And so like, again, it's just inexperience, right? And that's why you see a lot of projects fail because of simple things of like, hey, I ran out of money. Well, what do you mean you ran out of money? Like just things like this.
You know, I'll just chime in and say that's so true. And it's such a weird time in the space because it's like a space of outsiders. Like there's so many people in the space that raised money during the bull market with great ideas, with pitch decks, you know, and I say great ideas generously, you know, a lot of them were pretty pie in the sky ideas. And yeah, they were inexperienced teams. They were founders that, you know, never founded a company. They were, you know, hiring people from the community that didn't have marketing experience, didn't have, you know, project management experience. And we're seeing a lot of like, you know, mistakes and kind of different ways of doing things. But you also, on the counter of that, you've got when you hire, you know, when you have projects that come in with the more business savvy sense, they've got you know, marketing experience, you know, they bring in Web2 professionals, they kind of suck at Web3. Like they don't get the DJ audience, they don't get the people that are buying and speculating on NFTs. Now, I guess the good thing about the bear market, the fact that that has almost died, you know, that speculation is like in the pits, you know, no one's caring about your hyped project anymore. The benefit now is you don't have to please that group. Like that's not the big pressure anymore. You can actually figure out, all right, now how do we onboard, you know, Web2 users? Because that's something that in the past, companies that specifically tried to onboard Web2 users missed out completely on the easy Web3 onboarding, and that just looked like a failure.
This is actually, I'll go for it.
Yeah, no, you know, one thing on the money right there is that, you know, it's appeasing to the Web3 a marketing thing, right? Like, I don't know. To me, like, crypto is a niche, right, within the whole universe. And then crypto gaming or GameFi, whatever you want to call this, is a niche within crypto, right? And so, like, to me, like, if you ever like come to me and you're like, yeah, well, we got to try to figure out a marketing plan for like the crypto gamers, and I'm just like I will put 1% of my effort towards that because not like it's just not worth it. First of all, not only are they ruthless, they're also experts in this space because, oh my God, I've minted all these NFTs or I've done this, I've flipped them and I made $100 grand off of this. I ran this, like, and there's a lot of experts in this space, right? Like a lot of them, and they're on crypto Twitter. So like to me, like I don't want to market to those people. Like I want to stay away from them. So I'm going to go after gamers, right? Like that's who I want to go after.
Well, this actually kind of ties into like the content creator value of Web3 discussion that I wanted to bring up. So we'll go ahead and jump over to that. But it brings up a good point. You know, we have a lot of content creators with some fairly large numbers. Now, I'm not going to say, because I can't confirm that they are botted, but in Web2, even some of the largest creators started with botting. I don't know if you guys keep up on any of that nonsense, but Rice Gum is a pretty prominent creator within Web2. And during an interview recently, he flat out said, yeah, when I first started, I bought it. Like, that's how I got noticed. I botted my accounts. I ended up eventually getting banned from Twitch, but my name had already blown up and it transferred over to YouTube and it worked. And I started, I'm not going to lie, guys, I started looking into bots. I wanted to know how much they cost. I wanted to know what features they came with. I wanted to know what platforms they worked on. And it is cheap. It is cheap. With 100 bots, all I probably need on Twitch is like 1 subscriber to break even. And you can even make them filter in so they jump in like every 10, 15 minutes, half hour, so it looks organic and you can see organic growth, and you can buy them in chunks so that way your numbers aren't skyrocketing overnight. It's ridiculous what people are doing to play these systems and these algorithms. But if you think about it, if you really think about it, the largest creators in Web3, the Brysons, the Kagi, the Stashes, even if they had a 100% conversion rate for every single gamer in their community, do you really think that they can compare to any of the actual big names in Web2?
Well, I mean, two answers to this, right? First is,
I have a point with this. I'm just curious.
oh yeah, I mean, like, I'll let you finish your point then before I go.
So the thing is, a lot of the Web3 people who are following these creators, because I'm one of them, I love their content and I think it's great. But there is a plateau. We're already in Web3. We're already looking for the latest and greatest games. I don't need a Bryson stream to find Oldor. I don't need a Stash stream to find, well, I don't need a Classy stream to find any Gala games. I'm already here. I'm in Web3. I'm looking for these games. It's the Web2 gamers that we're missing right now. Nobody in Web3, the largest Web3 content creators, are not pulling Web2 audiences because they're focusing on Web3. That's where all this marketing is coming from and going to is just more Web3. And that's why we are stuck in this like cycle of all these speculators diving into these games and flipping. And that's the kind of mentality that we've bred. Meanwhile, somebody like me who's tiny, I have a Web2 gamer who has been a loyal follower and friend for years playing in a Web3 tournament with me this weekend. I have a history of converting Web2. How many other creators can sit there and prove, hey, I'm not just targeting Web3? And you're starting to see it. They're starting to wake up and realize that. And that's why you're starting to see people like Bryson do CSGO or Spike trying out Fortnite. Like they're finally realizing, oh, yeah, we need to appeal to more than just Web3. We need to get Web2 gamers in here and get them involved and build that rapport with them, right? So I think that it is going to happen slowly but surely. We're going to break that ceiling between Web2 and Web3 gaming, but we've kind of laid our own beds, so to speak, so far.
Yeah, I mean, let me answer two things, right? First is about botting. Botting is normal. It's okay to do, right? Because like it's the way to get to like your explore page or the way to get on certain things. Knowing how to use bots completely, like I think is a part of a marketing strategy and a marketing plan.
I hate it though.
Allocate. Yeah. We all do. But that's the only way to get to these pages where you're getting discovered, right? Now, with that said, if you're using it for that, but now the misuse of botting is a whole different world, right? Like because of the professionals we have in the space, they think because of the following they have, then they want to like say, oh, I could tell you this or I could tell you that. Like constantly like bashing Web3, constantly bashing games, stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, like, who are you? Again, like, what did you do? Like, hey, I come from the Web2 space. I come from business banking, right? Like commercial investment banking. Like, when we look at businesses or work with businesses, the first thing you have to do is take the executive team and break down their resumes and making sure like we understood who we were going to work with. In this space, I don't even know if I've ever even had to show the resume for some of the projects I work with, right? Like like it's just that's how it is. It's the space is just like, hey, well, we don't the process to work with certain people is different. So like again, it's certain things that are broken in the space that need to, and it's good to Web 2 folks are coming in because now you're starting to see like, oh yeah, I need your resume. What did you do before? Let me see your portfolio.
Mhm.
Great. Now we're finally getting those kind of questions. Like, even though I have had all my stuff ready to show people, it's like, hey, this is what I could do. It just doesn't show. And then the last thing is to again, the bubble is the bubble we're in, right? Like again, you're already here, we're already here. We don't need to like market to ourselves. That's why like what it goes to before where I say like, would I want to market to Web3? I don't know. Web3 is right now so discoverable and easy to discover. Like to me, like between our own bubble, like I don't need to market. That's why I would market back to the Web2. Now, what I would do maybe is like, hey, get a Bryson, get a Spike, get Jim Karen, whoever it is, and say, hey, I'm down to work with you to work with a Web2 content creator, split whatever the fee is or whatever they need for advertising and whatever to bring in more users, and one be an educator and one be the gamer, but the educator is a gamer as well, to kind of help bring in and understand what some of these games are being built and how they're being built and how to play it. So like, I think there's more to it, right? Like, I think there's ways to work with Web3 content creators. It's just, again, there has to be
hire this man. Hire this man. No, that was that was a great idea, honestly.
Yeah, I'll say I think part of it depends on where a game is in their loop. Like, where if they are not fully finished yet, maybe they're not ready to market to Web 2 audience. And the Web 3 audience, while it is small and definitely a niche of a niche, like I think that you have some quality gamers here and some quality content creators that you can use for QA, you can use for, capturing more of the small pie that we have here, at least getting as many eyes on your project at the stage where it is. Because, I mean, let's face it, anyone that's in like Web3 today is an early adopter. Like they're willing to play a buggy game. They understand that it's not finished. But if you go mass market your game to a Web2 audience, they're going to expect this game to be fully finished. They're going to expect it to have a certain level of quality, to not have these certain bugs. Sure, you shouldn't release a buggy game, period. But if you need feedback and if you need to get like testing and things like that, like I think Web3 is a great audience to be able to get some of that today.
So
agreed.
I agree, but there is some nuance there, because the first thing that came to mind is 7 Days to Die. That game has been in alpha for 10 years. 10 years, and it's been on Steam early access for at least 7 of those. So it is a game that Web 2 gamers have bought into super early. They understood that it's still in development, and they just released another alpha version like within the last month or two. I've been watching George in the meta play it, and it's like, when does the shield come off? At what point can you no longer say, oh, well, we're still working on it? And at what point should the product finally be considered a product, right?
Some studios are really good at managing those expectations. I mean, we all have talked about like Star Citizen, because in the last week they crossed that threshold of raising $600 million on selling spaceships for a game that you really can't play. I mean, they've got a playable mode, but the game that was sold has not been delivered. And it's all about managing expectations. And in some games, you come out with a new Call of Duty title today or a new Battlefield title, and no matter how polished it is, like if there are any problems, it is going to get trashed by certain communities. So it's about those expectations. It's also about, the history of the studio and promises made and kept and things like that. There's a lot that goes into it, but yeah, it's, I do think, I stand by, I think that this is a good space to like test games and not get the huge criticism that you could get from like the Web 2 audience.
That's true.
Yeah, I'll say one thing to the Star Citizen and to the expectations is it's easier in this space to sell hope than to sell a product, right? It's so much easier, and that's why pitch decks are very, very pretty in Web3, and that's why people raise a lot of money, because pitch decks are done really, really well. So with that said, is like like if you're a game developer and if you can put together a phenomenal pitch deck, you're going to raise money. I'll tell you that for a fact. You will be able to raise money. Some of the best pitch decks out there, I've seen almost every pitch deck for almost every game. but like it's wild. Like some of them that you see and you're just like, wow, like these guys hit it. And then you go look at the product and you're like, oh yeah, we're not even. These are just like renderings, and I'm like, oh god, like whatever. But yeah, I think it's just it's easier just to hope, and I think with a lot of these things, like there are projects that like people are just selling something for future's sake. So it is what it is.
So I guess why would games even work with content creators if they're not even launching a full product? Because it sounds like we're trying to sell communities or gamers or whatever on the future of a game. And we've already seen a lot of games shutter, not even just within Web3. This isn't a Web3 problem. This is a gaming industry problem. I myself have promoted multiple games while they're in alpha or beta, only for them to shutter before they even were launched. Some that come to mind, you got Spellbreak, which shut down earlier this year. You had Crucible, which was from Amazon Games. They shut down in beta. Like, it blows my mind that it's getting to a point to where there's a reason the main AAA games stay the top dogs, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, Fortnite. It's because they've proven they've been there, they've been through hell and back, they continue to build, they continue to ship new products, even though it's basically the same game with the new skin. Players understand it's going to be there 5-10 years down the road. Whereas a lot of these new games coming out, they're all trying to push the boundaries of whatever's going on. And again, this is Web 2 and Web 3. This is gaming as a whole. And they don't have the sustainability to be there 10 years down the road. And that's what's causing players to kind of be like, oh, well, maybe I'm just going to stick with the status quo because it's safe. If I spend $60, I want to make sure I can play it, in the next year or two. So do you think that spending $200+ on a mint in Web3 is kind of exasperating this issue, and that's what's causing the demand for games to be faster and better, and the critiques are becoming more and more critical? Do you think that's kind of playing into it?
Well, two things, or one thing. I'll just say one thing is, again, go back to marketing, right? A lot of these NFT mints that we do for games, like we market it as like, hey, it's a mint pass or whatever, blah blah blah. When it should be marketed as like it's a mint pass / an investment into the game.
You said the word. You said the word.
So
you gotta be careful with that.
And truthfully, but that's why you get so many critics, right? Because I'm going to invest into this NFT.
Call it a Kickstarter. Call it a Kickstarter.
Yeah, we said this a million times, right? It's got to be called Kickstarter, right? Because again, some of these game developers take a long time to build because they don't have the teams that AAA team and Game Web 2 has, right? They're smaller teams. It takes a lot longer. So I think it's, again, language, marketing, and then going to this issue.
I just don't like the I word because there's legalities and stuff involved with that. We need to call
not
it
financial advice.
Crowdfunding.
Not financial advice on the show.
I'll go back to the why invest in creators, why work with creators. I think that, like, I'll share our thesis here. So we think that as this space grows, and it's inevitable, because what you're going to see is, some game come out, and it's going to be multiple eventually, but at first it's going to be one game that has compelling gameplay that people see it and they say, I want to play this game. Then they hear, oh, but it's got NFTs. I don't care. I'm still going to play it, and then they're going to jump in. Exactly. And so when they play it and they actually, if the Web3 element hits, like if that's something that's an upsell to the game, if it's a value add, then they're going to go on Twitch and they're going to go on, other content platforms, and they're going to look for creators that are covering this game. What else do they play? Are they, playing other Web3 titles? This is going to be games that this player has never heard of before. I think that while this space is very small and while the creators have smaller audiences, this is a great time to bet on micro creators and grow with them, because as this space grows with new titles coming out that will largely be ignored by mainstream creators that are not specifically like paid to promote these games, then you're going to see the creators that were here, that were early adopters. They're going to be in a great space to grow, and then they'll have a lot of influence over the titles that gamers that come into the space are trying out.
You said it. You nailed it on the head. Grow together. I've been in talks with some companies lately, and I've noticed a trend. When it comes to me, they like to bring up my size occasionally. What they don't ever bring up is my network. Yeah, I might have 5 average viewers, but don't underestimate who I'm talking to behind closed doors, because I can get you eyes that you may not see on my channels. They may come from other channels. Networks are a super powerful tool, and trust me, content creators talk. We're all talking behind closed doors. We're collaborating. We're trying to find what games we like and what we don't like. We're out here trying to grow together between us, and we're also trying to grow with these games. You see a lot of people talking about Parallels right now. It's absolutely blowing up, and all the creators that were there from day one are already starting to see some of that, that kickback in terms of growth. Not me. I wasn't there day one. I mean, I was technically for the game launch, but I wasn't there as long as everybody else. But like STG Football, I already mentioned them once. I'm not paid to play their game. I was never offered anything. I was invited to a tournament, and I've said before on my Twitter, I don't play sports games. Well, when the tournament invite hit my DMs, I was like, let me go try the game before I even say yes. Like, yes, I understand there's money involved. I love playing in tournaments. I'm a competitive player. But if the game's not fun and I'm not going to have fun at the tournament, I don't even want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. I played the game for like 15 minutes and I was like, I'm in. That's all it took, because it brought me back to the nostalgia of my days of playing like Madden 95 and NCAA like 20 years ago, right? And I actually enjoyed the game. And then you tell me that there's a Web3 element on top where I can actually trade and sell players. I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is exactly the kind of Web3 integration systems we need. Like, there's no token. Well, not that I'm aware of anyway. So like, I don't have to worry about farming a token. I can level my players. And believe it or not, I played as a free player against a paid player, and I actually went toe to toe with them. So the pay to win, if it's there, it's actually fairly minimal. So that's the kind of stuff I want to see. And then I jump into Parallels, and it's the same thing. You can buy non-NFT cards. You can buy NFT cards. Web3 is completely optional. They do have their own token. That's a whole different system, but that's to convert the free cards to NFT cards. Like, I'm starting to realize that these games are figuring it out. It's taken us like how many years now, but they're starting to realize what makes a game fun. And I wasn't even a TCG player. I've also posted I don't like that. I'm not paid to play that, but those two are the actual games I'm looking at focusing on from Web3, just because the gameplay is fun. I can sit there and I can make content on it. I can get people involved because you've got private matches, you got 4v4 in STG, you got 1v1 private matches and Parallels, so you can pull in other gamers and get them involved. Like, that is what we need more of. All these like NFT farming sims or token farming sims, they're not enjoyable. I can't sit down and play them every single day, and trying to get my friends involved without having to like educate them on every Web3 element. Oh, go create a wallet. Oh, go transfer this token to this wallet, and then you can buy this NFT. Then you can get into the game once you connect that NFT wallet to the gamers. Don't want that.
I think like what you're saying, like one of the things to mention here is that I think it's only been maybe 6 months, I would say at the most, where we have finally heard people saying gameplay has to be fun, right?
I've been saying it. No, I've been saying it since I got Web3 a year and a half ago.
Yeah. But I'm saying like the mass audience, right? The mass audience is finally saying that. And so it makes me look at gaming in Web3 to figure out what year are we in. And I don't even know if we're in year one of Web3 gaming yet, right? Because year one of Web3 gaming will be really when all these games are just out and ready to play, like full out, right? You got the Shrapnel, you got the Dead Drop, you got all these big AAA names that are coming out that will finally be, okay, this is year one of gaming. So I think we're still like in like BC or whatever you want to call it, like that kind of like before, and like we're still in like, okay, now the figure out zone, who we are, like, so it's part of this process, right?
But these are games that are coming out. They are playable. I mean, some of them, not all of them, but I get where you're coming from. And I actually agree with you, because now that I'm like, when you brought that up, I'm like, how many of these games are actual 1.0 releases? And I have said that before. We need more 1.0 releases. So that's a good point.
I'll say that. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think while I do think we're going to see some amazing titles, I think that, going back to something Jorge said like early on, like there's a lot of people that don't have the experience. And not only is that going to like slow projects down, but it's also going to deliver like subpar products that like maybe look great. The trailer looks good. The product looks good. They've deliver some hype, but then when the product comes out, it's going to underwhelm. And I don't know that the market's quite prepared for that, because you know we're at that point to where a lot of projects are kind of running lower on funds. They're having to raise for their next rounds. They're having to show investors like some increased traction, some better product, and that's before they've even let players actually try to get feedback. And I think that it's going to be a rude awakening for a lot of games. I think we're kind of in this phase where we're gonna see a lot of indie-ish kind of games and small teams delivering some really interesting titles that put to shame some of these projects that raise 20, 30, 50 million dollars. I think we're going to see some projects that kind of bootstrap and maybe raise like a million or two, actually get more traction and a better ROI than some of these bigger projects for a while, until we figure out what that it is.
And maybe some of these projects, heavy metal, should use AI to maybe expedite and help them get out a product that's actually worth people's time and money, instead of maybe a popularity contest. Because let's be honest, that's really what it came out to be. I don't know about you guys, but all the influencers on my timeline that were hyping it up, now all of a sudden it's a popularity contest. It's like, you didn't understand that from the very instance they described the systems, and you hyped it up. What did you expect was going to happen?
There's definitely a disconnect between the people speculating that got into this space like for tokens and NFTs, and now they're becoming gamers, and that's great. But that doesn't necessarily make them like the best pickers of the winners in gaming, because that is something that's notoriously impossible to pick.
But here's the flip side of that. I'm a gamer through and through, and even some of the games that I do enjoy and I pick because I think that they have a legitimate chance, I'm seeing rug pulls. I don't know if you guys have noticed, I haven't talked about Make It Out in months. It was the only horror game I was really hyped for, and the Telegram went silent. The developers never paid me for my content. Like, the next thing I know, it's dead, basically. So I'm like, really? And I thought it was a great game. It had a lot of potential. The developer behind it had a history in Web 2 already. Supposedly, I never actually got to talk to the developer himself, just the man that was the front man, So it sucks. But then you also have games like Meta Ops, which I really enjoyed. I think that there's a lot of potential there, but they're bootstrapped and they're relying on NFT mints for funds. And that's a no-no. That's a no-no. I love them. I'm still a huge holder for their assets, but you can't rely on NFTs for your funding. You got to find VCs. You got to kickstart it, crowdfund. You got to do something, but NFTs alone are not going to cut it.
Maybe they're going the Star Citizen route, just bootstrap it for $600 million, and then, eventually you can build a game.
I wish. But no, I love them and the team. It's just, I want to see them succeed, and I don't think they're going to do that off of just NFTs.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example, right? Of like, coming into the space early, being Meta Ops is a first mover in the sense of FPS, right?
Oh no, that's Grezzo.
Yeah, maybe. Did he not pay his electricity bill?
I don't know.
Oh man, which content creator did he pay? No, Braslow. What did you do, my friend? All right, everybody go download Oldor right now. Wait, first of all,
it's on Hyperplay.
It's on Hyperplay. Okay.
It should be on Hyperplay and Elixir. Oh yeah, Elixir, he just DM'd me. His power went out, so he said he'll be back in a minute.
Okay, everybody, while you take this minute, go download Oldor. We gotta get him back on. Founder of Oldor, Graslow, just lost power. Not enough people are playing the game. That's what it is. Get people playing the game. Get in there.
No, so
it's actually really cool. It's actually a real cool game, by the way.
It is. It's a roguelike arena survival game. Long term, it's planned to be an MMORPG, but basically right now it's just a vertical slice. And the combat and everything is fun. It's nice and challenging. And I'm a sucker for roguelikes. Like after I played Dimensionals and Oldor, I'm like, this has some real potential in Web 3 if people do it right. Because roguelikes are just, the replayability factor is ridiculous. So
yeah, no, I think it's definitely like a really cool game. I checked it out really early on too, so it's pretty cool to see where he is. But in the meantime, I guess like I don't know, how are we on time, by the way, too? I know it's like
I'm good to keep going. I wanted to at least let you finish your thought, but with Graslow gone, yeah.
I don't even know what I was talking about. What was I going to talk about? You see, I don't even think we even know.
We went off. We went pretty far off the rails. So,
Yeah.
Well,
I guess we could either do.
I had talked about meta ops and relying on NFTs for mints.
Oh yeah, they were. I
First
think
movers.
again, like first movers in FPS,
Mhm.
first movers in like funding
Graslow's
as
back.
well. Like for
But that,
everybody went to go download Oldor. Where can they find it, by the way, Oldor? I was telling everybody your website.
Sorry, my power flicked off there for a second. Yeah, it's oldor.com, and it's on Hyperplay, Elixir, and Sedona.
I got 2 out of the 3 right. I was missing Sedona.
Yeah, you can't miss Sedona. Yo, you can't miss Sedona.
I know.
Come on, man. Damn, we gotta do a shill for Sedona here now. First custodial Web3 wallet game launcher. Come on, guys, go download it right now.
Oh man.
Anyways, yeah, I think again, like where meta ops was in the space, but right, I think again, meta ops is still like got potential to be something if they're able to get the funding or whatever they need. I don't know the situation, right? So I'm just saying, like, they still have a cool product, right? Like they have really great engagement in the past. So like, again, it's part of developing a game, right? Like if you don't keep putting out good stuff, and that's the problem with the space, is that we release betas, and then people get tired of playing that same loop, right? Like you have to really know how to market your game.
That's another problem. I come from Web 2 as a QA tester, and I mean actual QA tester, not just I got into a free beta. I get invited by Activision, Ubisoft, like some of the big names to play test their games, and we keep calling games betas when they barely qualify as pre-alpha. Sure. Stop calling it a beta.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a funny thing of certain words that we use in this space, right? Especially like I come from the BD partnership role, where it's like, yeah, let's be partners. Like, hey, what does that like partnership means now? And they're like, yeah, we'll just make a Twitter post about like working together. And I'm just like, really? That's what partnership means? But hey.
Well, again, yeah, they're paying you an exposure. Come on.
Yeah. So, Graslow, I know we're coming around the hour. We definitely love to hear a little bit about where you are with Oldor. Like, tell the people everything about you, like where we could find you and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm at Graslow Gamer on Twitter. Love to talk about Web3 gaming. But yeah, I'm the founder of Max Level Studios. We're building Oldor, which is a Web3 MMORPG. But we've got a vertical slice out now, as we mentioned, on Hyperplay, Elixir, and Sedona. And it's the Dread Arena, where you go in this arena and fight against the Dread King's minions. I think it's a fun loop. We get a lot of great feedback from it. It is an early slice of our game. We have a lot more planned. We're doing tournaments regularly. We actually have a tournament starting tomorrow. So we have some tournaments where players can win prizes. The tournament tomorrow actually introduces a new game mode, which we'll be announcing later. But yeah, we're working on lots of stuff behind the scenes. You can expect to see some cool stuff from us, some open world teasers and stuff like that.
And I happen to know you host some spaces every week. When are those? Because I used to be on Thursdays.
Yeah, so I do a space every Wednesday now, but actually tonight it's going to be Thursday. So yeah, doing a space this week on Thursday. But normally Wednesday nights I do a Web3 gaming focused space, but we also talk about NFTs and AI.
All right, well, we're all coming tonight to support, and
that's a 7 Eastern. Don't forget the time, 7 Eastern.
And because we are experts, we will be in the comments letting you know if it's right or wrong.
All right.
Oh, that's fine, because I'm usually up there speaking anyway, and I know you like to tell me I'm wrong, so.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on. It was awesome to hear a little bit of your perspective. It's great to have somebody with experience coming on and giving us their perspective as well. And we're excited for everything that you're building as well. So we're big fans.
Well, thanks for the invite. I love watching the show. So it's a thrill to be up here.
Awesome.
Maybe we're gonna have to rotate somebody out every week, because like we had Annie on last time from ETH Lizards, and that was phenomenal. Now we've had Graslow. Eventually we'll have Sinjin back from Meiji, which he's always dude. If you missed any of our shows with Sinjin, you need to go back to our YouTube right now and go watch some of those old shows, because that man takes no prisoners. He will tell you how it is, and if you were wrong, he will make sure that you know you're a wanker.
Yeah. No prisoners at all. So yeah, definitely. But yeah, everything on my end. Excited for where we are with Web3 gaming. Excited that these conversations are evolving. Excited that we have a platform to be able to bring on people. And anybody that's out there that wants to come onto the show, let us know. We would love to have other guests on here. So definitely share it with your friends, families, gamers, ex-friends, Twitters, whatever you want, wherever you are. Share it with everybody.
And while we're shilling stuff, Sunday, 11 p.m. Pacific time, or 11 a.m., Pacific time, we got an STG Content Creator Football Cup going down. We got 16 content creators from the Web3 space, as well as their teams, 4v4 matches. It's going to be going most of the day, they're expecting. Lots of football. So if you enjoy football, come out, support your favorite creator. I'm obviously going to be playing in it. So I'm just saying, if you love me, come support me, because I'm kind of good at the game. I don't know if you guys have watched the streams lately, but I've been doing some work. I did have to bench Calvin Ridley. If anybody's a Calvin Ridley fan, I'm sorry. He was sucking, couldn't catch a ball to save his life. I needed a better wide receiver, so he's on the bench. Sorry, it had to be done.
16 content creators are playing, right?
Yep. And
I know one content creator. Well, I don't like classifying him as a content creator, but I know one player on there that's gonna kill it. But you're just gonna have to tune in this weekend.
Yep. So that's gonna be happening. Do you guys have anything else before we wrap it up, or is that pretty much cover everything?
Shout out to NFT for giving us a platform again. They are the leading NFT lending platform, and they got something coming out soon. So you guys got to make sure you turn on the notifications on RENFT on Twitter.
I was about to say, make sure you guys go to the Twitter. There were some big announcements this week.
So
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Yep, I'm not gonna sit here and chill them all day. You just gotta go check out the Twitter, follow them, turn on those noties, and go find out what you missed this week. So, what about you, Graslow? Other than space tonight, anything else you want to show before we?
Just our tournament tomorrow. So hopefully, if you haven't tried the game, I'd love for you to try it out and give us feedback.
I'm down to play that tournament if I'm allowed to.
I think it's open, isn't it?
Open to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't bring a veteran gamer on, bro. You can't, like a pro gamer, like you can't just bring. You have to ask, bro.
No, Jorge. If you've seen the leaderboards, I don't know. You can be as veteran as you want. Older Queen and Sandor seem to lead the leaderboards.
Well, I'll say this mode is going to be interesting to see if it shakes up the leaderboards a bit.
Okay.
We'll have to hear more about that on the space tonight.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to be it for us, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be the end of another episode of the Block Sauce. But before we say farewell, make sure you guys give a huge shout out to Jorge and Graslow. I had to think about the names because we changed up our panel a little bit, going off script here. But we also couldn't have done it without all of our amazing viewers and supporters. Your engagement and passion fuel our drive to bring you the hottest topics and thought-provoking conversations week after week. Remember, the sauce never stops flowing. Stay connected with us on social media. We have a Block Sauce Twitter, at the Block Sauce. Replace the E with a 3. Just throwing it out there again until people start following it, because ReNFT account's still beating us. And that way you can.
Let's get bots. Let's buy bots today.
Dang it, Jorge! Stop encouraging them. But if you guys follow us, you could always suggest future gaming content, suggestions, topics that you want us to tackle. Because you have a voice. That's kind of the point of Web3. We're decentralizing the power to the people. But that's going to be it for us today, Sauce Enthusiasts. Join us next time for another thrilling episode of the Block Sauce, where we'll keep the gaming flame alive and the discussion sizzling. Stay saucy and keep gaming in the exciting realm of Web3. Have a good one.